Coming up on the good, the bad, the Teskey, myself and my colleague from Extra 90.5, Jordan Mercier, sat down with TSN CFL analyst Jock Climie to talk about the upcoming games for the CFL playoffs this weekend. That's coming up and more on the good, the bad, the Teskey.
You know, it's November, and that means for many of us, playoff football is in the air. The CFL is geared up for the divisional semifinals this weekend. Our next guest had over 9,000 career receiving yards in the CFL before becoming a fixture on one of the most entertaining sports panels on TV. Please give a Peterborough welcome to Jock Climie. Now, Jock, it says here you're also a labor and employment lawyer, so is it fair if I complain about how early in the morning this shift requires us to get up?
Not to me, I'm afraid. I am an employer-side labor and employment lawyer only.
Oh,
so
no.
I'm likely to advise your employer to fire you if you whine too much.
All right, so we'll just we'll skip that part. I'll cross that out here. So we'll start off in the East, obviously, and the Ticats and Alouettes, they get things started from Steeltown on Sunday. Hamilton seemed to get the better of Montreal this season, and mainly to do with who is under center. I guess this isn't your dad's Montreal squad, but they did show signs of improvement late in the season. What are you expecting from this game?
I don't know what to expect from this game. It's one of the more intriguing matchups of the year for me, simply because Hamilton has been so inconsistent. There are games where they go out there and look like they're gonna walk away with the Grey Cup, and there are times where they look like they'll even belong in the playoffs. Henry Burris has obviously had an outstanding year, throwing for almost 5,000 yards, and yet he's performed very poorly late in some games, particularly turning the ball over in inopportune times. And so he's been driving Ken Austin nuts this year with some of his decision making. But he's got a decent core of receivers around him. The defense in Hamilton has been steadily getting better. So this is a team that can play really well or really poorly on any given night. And, of course, on the other side for Montreal, they seem to have found a quarterback that they can rely on in the absence of Anthony Cavillo. Troy Smith is the third quarterback, really, after Anthony to be given the reins, and it's his team. And he's inexperienced in the CFL, but he's got 4 years of NFL experience and a year with the UFL. And you know what? He looks pretty poised, and he's a guy who could easily go into Hamilton and win.
Jock, that was going to be my next question. You led right into it. Now, talk about Troy Smith. This guy won the Heisman with Ohio State, had a very good college career. Is he ready for the big time now, taking on Hamilton?
Yeah, I think, playoff football is different. The level of intensity is something that you really have to experience to appreciate, and he hasn't had that experience. Certainly his time in the NFL, he didn't have any playoff starts. Very few starts, period. And so this is a guy who obviously has a bit of a learning curve. However, I have been really impressed, as I said earlier, his poise, both in, whether it's a post-game interview, pre-game interview, or on the field. He looks like he's unflappable, and I think that is really going to help this Montreal offense, which, was reeling. First having to deal with Hawkins being fired and the whole system being turned around, and Doug Barry taking over the offensive game plan, then Anthony getting hurt. A third successive quarterback. This is an offense that's had very little stability, but he's slowly bringing them some of that.
Jock, just from your perspective, being one of the former Alouettes there, what did you make of this year in Montreal? And if they lose in the first round, is this just are you going to chalk it up to just kind of a lost year, or is this going to be a huge disappointment?
I would call this potentially a transition year. I mean, not obviously if Troy Smith emerges and somehow leads this team to the Grey Cup, then it'll just be one of those stellar, spectacular years we'll talk about for years to come. But if Montreal loses on Sunday, I would call it a transition year. This is a year where the Alouettes are transitioning away from Mark Trestman, who obviously did incredible things in Montreal, and are trying to find somebody else to lead that team. And it's a year when they're moving away from Anthony Cavillo and trying to find a new quarterback. I mean, Jim Pop is obviously still there and in control. Bob Wettenall still the owner, so they still have stability at the top. But they've got to find themselves a quarterback and a head coach that they feel can lead this team for years to come. And I would call this year that transition year.
This is Peterborough Morning Drive. I'm Jordan Mercier along with Colin Teskey, and right now we are chatting with Jock Climie, of course, is an analyst of the CFL on TSN.
Now, Jock, I want to talk about the Argos really quick. Obviously, they have a bye into the next round. What do you think their likeliness is to get to the Grey Cup, and who would they rather play, Hamilton or the Alouettes? Who do they match up better against?
I think they'd rather play the Alouettes. Hamilton can scare you because of what they can do offensively with Henry Burris. I don't think you choose to play Hamilton given the way they have played at various times. Hamilton has gone into Toronto and beat them this year, so I think you'd rather take the Alouettes. But Toronto's the best team in the East. There is no question about that. A healthy Ricky Ray is a frightening prospect for opposing defenses. That guy is having a lights-out year. Only played in, I think it's 9 or 10 games, but he has been nothing short of remarkable. So as long as that defense holds up, and it's one of the better defenses in the league, they should see themselves in the Grey Cup.
Switching gears, that's obviously the early kickoff. The later one is out west, and it'll be BC at Saskatchewan. These teams met in Week 17, and the Riders thumped the Lions 35-14. So is there any reason to think that BC can win in that hostile environment?
It's funny to say this, but based on Travis Lulay's 2 series last week where he got into the game, I thought to myself, maybe they can pull off an upset. Travis has obviously been out since September with a shoulder injury, and the people they had on relief, Buck Pierce being one. I don't know that those guys were capable of winning a playoff game in Saskatchewan, but Lulay looks like he's redeveloped that passion for the game that was his trademark, and certainly carried them to the Grey Cup victory a couple of years ago. So if he is able to find his rhythm, BC has certainly got the talent to go into Saskatchewan and win, but he has to be at his best in order for that to happen.
And then talking about Saskatchewan, Jock, they got off to a hot start. They had a rough patch in the middle. Have they done enough in your eyes to turn this season around? And can this game at home really be a good thing for them going into round one?
I think it's a great dress rehearsal for them. If they can get a big win at home against BC, a good football team. So they can beat a good football team, and I'd say most importantly, take care of the football while they do it. They're going to have the confidence they need to go into Calgary. Calgary's a very good football team, but they are struggling with injuries, have all year, and now they've got more of them to contend with. They're beatable. But they're not beatable if Saskatchewan plays as badly as they did in the middle part of the season, where, as you mentioned, started off the year with an incredible record, all because they were taking care of the football. And that starts with Darren Durant. And as soon as he started turning the ball over, they started losing. So it's a pretty simple formula for them, and they need to take this game against BC and use it as a jumping off point for their game against Calgary.
And that moves right into it perfectly. You can't talk about the Riders without talking about Corey Sheets a little bit and what a great year he had. Where do you rank him in terms of offensive weapons in the CFL?
Well, he's certainly right up there. I mean, I'd say his production and has tailed off a bit, obviously, with his injury. He hasn't looked quite the same to me since he's come back from that. But they have the leading rushing game in the CFL, I think. I mean, obviously, John Cornish is in my opinion, the best running back in the league, and his yards per carry prove it. He's over 7 yards, which is a remarkable average. But Saskatchewan is completely devoted to the run. They run the ball more than any other team, and they have more yards on the ground than any other team. And there's Corey Sheets is obviously a big reason for it, but you can't fall in love with the run game because it leaves your offense in second and long if you don't pick up decent yards. So they need to continue to keep defenses off balance by using play action. You throw when they think you're going to run, and run when they think you're going to throw.
Would like to thank TSN CFL analyst Jock Climie for coming on The Good, the Bad, the Tesky, and giving us some great insights on what's going to play out or what could play out this weekend with the opening round of the CFL playoffs kicking off. And he really did get into it, I think, and really did tell us exactly why the CFL is such a great league to watch, because you never know what's going to happen. It's such a unpredictable league, and it's an exciting football league. And I think right now he did break it down really, really well. Let's look at the Eastern Conference. Troy Smith is making his playoff debut with the Montreal Alouettes as they take on Hamilton. And Troy Smith has been great. The former Heisman winner from Ohio State has done some great things coming in to replace Anthony Calvillo, who is hurt. And I think right now, Troy Smith, you really have to take it with a grain of salt. He has done the unthinkable this season. He's come in and proven himself when a lot of Als fans and other CFL fans doubted the Alouettes without Anthony Calvillo. He's come in, been a nice replacement, played well, and shown that maybe he can be the next guy to take over for Anthony Calvillo. But going into his first CFL playoff game, you're playing Henry Burris, a guy who's been here before, a guy that's won Grey Cups. This guy is talented, and I think he's got something to prove as well. He knows he doesn't have too many years left in the CFL, and Hamilton, they have shown flashes of brilliance this season. They just haven't done it all season long, and if they can catch fire, I don't like Montreal's chances. I think Hamilton gets the job done, and I think they advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, where the Argonauts are waiting. The Argonauts are a team right now. They've been exciting. They've been the best team in the East all year. They've proven that. Ricky Ray is a seasoned quarterback. He can get the job done. He's proven himself in this league. But that Argos defense is going to be the biggest question mark. And they've proven they can go out and they can beat the Argonauts in Toronto. So I like Hamilton coming out of the East. I know it's a bold pick. A lot of people are picking the Argonauts to go. But I like Hamilton. Hamilton will advance to the Grey Cup out of the East. Let's shift to the West right now. Saskatchewan and BC. This is an intriguing matchup for me because it's hard to pick the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They got off to that hot start, but they weren't really consistent down the stretch. The only thing that they have in their back pocket is that they've got the Grey Cup in Regina, in their own backyard. That, I think, is going to give them incentive enough to play hard and give their home fans a Grey Cup with the Riders in it. And I think they can get by the BC Lions. I think Corey Sheets has a big day, and the Riders advance to take on Calgary in the Western Conference Finals. Now, Calgary has been the best team in the CFL, hands down this season. But are they going to be able to handle the Rough Riders? The Rough Riders, if they get a win in BC, they've got momentum on their side. Calgary's got to wait a week to play them. They've been a hot team. Is the week off going to play into the hands of the Saskatchewan Rough Riders? I don't think so. I think they make it close, but I think Calgary has proven that they've just been too dominant this season. And I like the Stampeders to advance to the Grey Cup to take on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And my prediction, I'm going out on a limb here. Well, not really going on a limb, but I like the Calgary Stampeders over the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Grey Cup in Regina. I'm saying it right now. You heard it here first. Calgary Stampeders, 2013 Grey Cup champions. Would like to thank Jordan Mercier for coming on The Good, the Bad, the Teskey and helping me interview Jock Climie. And Jordan is a news guy, first of all, but he did a great job, and he proved he can handle sports talk with the best of them. Signing off from the Lansdowne and High Street studios here at Extra 90.5 in beautiful Peterborough, Ontario, I am Colin Teskey. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be right here listening to The Good, the Bad, the Teskey. Have yourself a great weekend, and hope you enjoy the football.